We are live on YouTube, the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. Man, I started this podcast this year, called it Mets Magic. We thought, it's a little alliteration. It's fun, but the magic is in the air. And the New York Mets, even the series had won in Los Angeles. I told you if you watched at Jake Brown Radio, my pre and post game shows, deep breaths. They're going to even this series. They're going to come out clutch. Lindor's going to hit a big homer. And Manaea's going to shove. And what happened? Lindor started the game with a homer. Manaea shoved. Swaggy V at a grand slam. Bing, bang, boom. This series is coming back to Citi Field with it all tied at 1. And the Mets are 3 wins away from the World Series. And now they have 3 games in Queens. Buckle up. Enjoy the ride. We're here to talk about it on a live episode with a few guests of the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Mets Magic with Jake Brown.
And it's in there, strike 3 called. The Mets win the pennant. The New York Mets have won the National League pennant. Put it in the books. The New York Mets, for the first time in 15 years, are champions of the National League.
The sickest New York Mets podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. I'm your host, Jake Brown, at SickPodMets on Twitter. Smash that thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Comment at Jake Brown Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all over the place. Jake Brown Radio, Sick Podcast, Mets Magic, YouTube.com/at the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. And if you're an audio person, find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating. Write a nice review. But if you're watching on YouTube, hit me with those pumpkins. Orange shirt. It's Orange October. Hit me with the pumpkins and LGMs. Pumpkin LGMs. Flood the chat with all of the pumpkins for Orange October. The lucky pumpkin with Pete Alonso. And the Mets tie the series 1-1. Can you believe it? I can. Because all the losers, all the naysayers, all the panickers, all the panicking Peters, season over. They lost 1 game. Game 1 was the least important game of the series, point blank, period. You lose 1 game, you're fine. Deep breaths. And the guy you wanted out there for game 2 was Sean Manaea. And Sean Manaea did what Sean Manaea does. Sean Manaea signed with the Mets in January. He found out the day he signed with the Mets that his older half-brother passed away from cancer. He wore number 59 for him because he was 59 when he passed away. He had an unbelievable season pitching for his brother, his older brother. Then, on the day of his start against the Phillies in Game 4, Sean Manaea found out that he lost his Aunt Mabel, who he was very close to. And Sean Manaea dominated against the Phillies. Sean Manaea went out there and at Los Angeles in a game you can argue was a must-win and make sure the Mets were not down 2-0. And Sean Manaea did it again. Just remarkable. And I said on the previous shows, I said, Lindor's got to have a big moment once again. He needs to carry them and do it early. And he did it early. The first bat of the game, solo home run. 1-0 Mets. Then in the second inning, rally together. They didn't really, it wasn't coming out smooth at first. At first, I was like, can you bunt? Iglesias strikes out, swinging on bad pitches. Taylor gets a big RBI double to 2-0. They intentionally walk Lindor. And I tweeted the Jordan gif, and he ended up saying after the game it was personal for Swaggy V. Mark Vientos, a.k.a. Swaggy V, hits a grand slam that essentially won the game for the Mets. They did get an insurance run of the ninth, but that was the difference, was the grand slam. A 7-3 final. Swaggy salami. I'm going to be going back to New York eating some Swaggy salami this week. Put some extra swag in that salami. Phil Maton scared us again, and these walks scare me. Manaea did have 4 walks. Maton was walking guy. Stanek walked the guy. Like, Stanek is the guy in this bullpen I trust. I don't know who else I do. There's not many guys you truly trust like you do Ryan Stanek, and it shows you what a great move it was to get him and give up almost nothing to get him. Diaz scared you, but again, Diaz went to his bread and butter. He went to the cheddar, and the cheddar they could not hit. They looked foolish. Stop messing around with the slider. Throw the cheese. And he was blowing away the heart of the order. Betts, you're gone. Teoscar, you're gone. Freddie One Foot, you're gone. Give me the cheddar, Edwin, because the cheddar might not work with my belly. I might have to pop a lactate before I eat that cheddar, but it's going to work in the end. It's going to leave you satisfied, at least the pitcher. It's going to leave the hitter with stomach aches like it leaves me after the double doses of chicken parm I had yesterday. You got to pull the cheese off of there. Just throw the cheddar. And now home field has shifted back into Mets land. And tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, Citi Field is going to be absolutely buzzing. October in Queens, man. We had one NLCS in Queens, and it was 2015. But that season is remembered by a throw home in Game 5 of the World Series. Time for revenge. It's time for lasting memories of positivity in Queens. Going to all three. So fired up to be in the ballpark. Just going to be rocking at Citi Field. I don't expect them to win all three, but if they can win all three and clinch on Friday night, it's a 5 o'clock game. 8 o'clock, 8:30, the party would begin in the city of New York. And it's really, if the Mets take game 3, the talks of Subway Series will continue to get closer and closer and more realistic. There's a part of me that wants it. There's a part of me that I would rather play the Guardians and avoid playing the Yankees, because if they did beat us, I got to hear about it again from Yankee fans for the rest of my life. But it starts with winning 3 games, and it starts with winning game 3, and that'll be Luis Severino against Walker Buehler. A good pitching matchup. Walker Buehler, historically not great against the Mets, not great in the playoffs. He's beatable. And then game 4 will be Yamamoto, most likely, unless they decide to go to Yamamoto on normal rest here in game 3. But now that it's 1-1, I think they'll probably go with him for game 4, but he won't be easy. But again, rocking Citi Field. He hasn't pitched here. We'll see if he's ready. Got a few guests in the building. Want them to chime in. I'm two diehard Mets fan, an old-time Met fan, and I guess an old-timer. He's a little older than me. My bald friend. Let's bring in Bilski first. Jeff Bilski is in the building.
Hello. How are you?
The balded, bearded one. You were like me, Bilski, and you were not panicking. You were not worried after that game. Well, a lot of Twitter was worried. A lot of people thought the season was over. But we knew Sean Manaea was Sean Manaea, and that the Mets would bounce back like they have all year.
The thing you got to realize, if you lose 30-0, you lose 1-0, you still lose. It's one game. It's not a big deal. And this team all year basically been coming back. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna cry about it? No, you're just gonna move on. I should be a coach because I'm just so influential to all these people.
You have a coach look to you, either a minor league or major league coach.
Well,
maybe that was your call.
Well, yeah, a lot of people tell me I look like the Giants head coach, Brian Dable, but, I don't take that as a compliment.
You do. You're maybe a slimmer Brian Dable, but we will be there tomorrow. Thanks to you. Shout out to you for making that happen. I thought you were messing with me when you texted me that, and then you weren't. And I'm fired up for these games, and we can enjoy them and cheer on the team, and it's going to be an atmosphere unlike – it's going to be different than 2015 because of everything that they've added. The light show with the changing pitchers, and some of them are sticky and things that old-time fans may not love, but I think it adds an element of home field advantage that makes Citi Field a bit different than other ballparks.
Well, man, I mean, if you tell me in 2015 that I'd be like rooting for Grimace and having this Hawk Tua thing going, and I'd be like, oh, I can't stand this, but it's awesome. It's really amazing, man, and I think it's bringing all the fans together. I mean, I work at Yankee Stadium, and your Yankees, it just seems like, all right. When you're at City Fields, like people are just partying, man, just in the parking lot. They're there like 4 hours early. It's wild, man.
You were
So
so you were at Yankees last night, so you see a massive difference. Now on TV, it sounds quieter, but I think they're muting out the noise a little bit. But what is the atmosphere comparison like for you?
it's they're definitely getting rowdier, as they, get closer for the Yankees, but it's just I don't know, I just feel like the Yankees, man, or the Mets, we just been like waiting way longer, and I just feel like, it's the time. I was on a train last night, and like there were two Yankee fans talking and saying, "Oh, like if we win here, I don't mind. I hope the Mets win." And I'm like, have you guys been watching baseball? Because I wouldn't want to play the Mets right now. The Mets are the hottest team in baseball, and just when you think they're out, they come back and they just don't go away. It's like I wouldn't want to play them if I was any team.
Either way, it's a tough matchup because the Dodgers are good. They showed that in game one. They showed that even yesterday, nearly fighting back in that game. And it's not going to be easy for either team. But, man, part of me wants the Guardians if we did move on. I think the Guardians, I don't trust. The Guardians don't have a pitching staff. Like, their pitching staff is not great. The Mets would match up better. Would you agree with that? Or, we're talking what ifs here, assuming that they win. But would you rather the Guardians or the Yankees?
I think it would be better for the city if it's a Subway Series. For the bars, the restaurants, it'd be rowdier. It'd be great, But I just feel like, I don't know. I'd probably rather play the Yankees, but I'd play either team. I think the Mets have the best pitching still left in the playoffs, and like, they're playing against Walker Bueller tomorrow, and that guy's had like three Tommy John surgeries. He's not the same guy he used to be, and I really think the Dodgers are going to get exposed tomorrow because I don't think the Dodgers have great pitching. You know what I mean? So I've been saying that for a long time, that the Dodgers just, they didn't really scare me, and then I literally would have been more nervous if we were playing the Padres right now. So the pitching staffs. I think that basically pitching wins championships, and the Mets have the best pitching left in the game right now. So I don't care who we play, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I wanted the Padres, to be honest, but I'm not mad at the Dodgers. I think the fact that the Mets could potentially have another bullpen game, they play another, bullpen. I assume it's game 5 or game 6, I guess. That would be huge because clearly the Mets had no problem with the Dodgers bullpen, and they had to use a lot of arms, the Dodgers, these first 2 games. The Mets did as well, but now you get the day off, and the Mets starters have been going deep, and if they could just control the command issues. The command has been the issue with this Mets team is they walk a lot of guys, and they put guys on early. If they could avoid walking guys, and also, everyone steals on us. I know Alonso got that random stolen base in the 9th inning, which helped because the base hit scored him. Can we steal some damn bases? They get guys first and second, no one out, 2 of their fastest guys, and no one's running. Marte's on first, doesn't run. Like, I think what pushes them over the edge is the aggressiveness, and the Mets have got to be aggressive, Bilski.
It's like sometimes like the ball that was hit the other day. It was like a shallow right field, and like Marte didn't go home. I'm like, I don't know why they don't do that. I think they get nervous that Marte's gonna like do something, like hurt himself. I don't know why, but yeah, I think Marte should be stealing a lot more. And the whole team just needs to get a little more aggressive, but they're definitely playing a little tight. You know what I mean? Like that first game, they just kind of walked into like a buzzsaw, and it's just super tight. And I think they're losing. Even that 6th inning where there was like, a couple bad like fielding plays, which reminded me of like 2015. So I started getting nervous, but they still came back around. They scored a run. Like, so, I don't really know. I think they're just playing a little tight. I think they're gonna definitely, once they get home, they'll be a little looser. So.
And you commented on my Facebook, Mets, and you think you think the Mets win the next 3 and end this thing, and we celebrate Friday night.
I do.
Wow.
I don't, the Yamamoto, I'm like, eh. And then Bueller, and then if they go to, I the first night, man, I think it was just a combination of like tightness and flatteries. I don't think he's that guy, so I'm not really scared to face him again either, so. And like I said, yeah, am I hopeful in 5? Yeah, I'm not like 100% confident, but I think they can win it in 5 or 6, but I would like to win it in 5 because we'll be there. So I'm pushing for it.
And we're going to be there, and it's going to be in the 40. Like, I have to go into my dad's garage now and find winter coats. Like, it's going to be a cold true October environment, Bilski. Like, we
But
got
I
to
also I
bundle up.
also think that helps the Mets out more than the Dodgers. So I feel like it's a little cooler, and the thing I hate about I just want to win in five too because I just hate flying back and forth. I just wish it was like in Milwaukee, so it'd be like a 2 hour flight rather than they're flying across the whole country. Like could have been in like Spain.
Yeah. And, and Cleveland's a shorter flight, but man, if it's New York, you're home for all 7 potential games. And that's the advantage if you get a Subway Series, a team that's been traveling more than any other team. They go from Atlanta, the Hurricane, to Milwaukee, to back to Atlanta, to Philly, to LA. Like, they've been racking up the air miles. They would love to be able to stay home. And, the first step to staying home is winning the next 3. And why not us? Why not these Mets? Bilski, tomorrow night, we will cheer
All
them
right,
on.
baby.
I'll see you tomorrow. Let's go Mets.
All right, brother. Let's go Mets. See you, Jake.
LGM, Jeff Bilski in the building. We will be there all week long. It's going to be rocking. Let's bring in my uncle now. Now, my uncle was at the 86 World Series. Longtime Met fan, living outside of Boston now. David, let's bring in Uncle D. Uncle David in the house. He's got the cooler setup. I need to learn how to do this. How did you do this?
Everybody's used to virtual backgrounds on Zoom, but nobody ever gives the nod to WOR around 1968. They definitely invented the technology. And when you see me here with the big Shay in the background, you got to think of Lindsay, Bob, and Ralph, because this is the way they did it, old school.
I thought you were talking Bob Brown and you're Lindsay.
No, Lindsay Nelson,
I know.
Bob Murphy, Ralph Kiner.
Can I get? I mean, I have the living room of a Cherry Hill apartment as my backdrop. He's got Shea Stadium. What are we doing here?
It's easy. I'll teach you how to do it later. It's easy.
The old man is teaching me how to set the background. How does this work? That's unbelievable. Now, you were at the days of Shea. You were there in the 70s. You were season ticket holder. Were you at 86? You were at game 6 and 7?
No, I was at game 1, which Tuffle blew with a ground ball between his legs, which was reminiscent of Felix Mian in the 73 series. And I was at game 7. I was also at the clincher when they won the East against the Cubs and saw just a sea of people just waving across the field as Keith Hernandez made the put out at first. But we went on the field after that. Of course, I did not do any damage to the grass. And I was at game 7 and I was on the field after that. And then, in 88, I was at 2 of the playoff games when we lost to the Dodgers. That was an amazing series. It's too bad we can't really reflect on it with joy because it turned out so badly. And then the only postseason baseball I've seen since then was with you in 2006. Before the Adam Wainwright game, we saw them win game 6 at Shea, and then we know what happened in game 7.
Yeah, and it was instead of Jose, it was John Maine. It was the John Maine start.
That's right. That's right. But I have my bona fides of rooting them every step of the way, even since I've moved to Massachusetts. And isn't this fun right now?
I mean, if they go to the World Series, I think you got to make the trip to the World Series. You were there 86. You were there the last time they won. I feel like it's only right that you come, to Citi Field.
I feel like if someone wants to make sure that everything is aligned, they might want to help me get a ticket, and of course, I'll be there.
I don't even have that power for World Series that people are going to be asking me. I'm going to find a way. I got lucky these NLCS games.
No.
But we'll see. I would listen if you're listening and you have access to free World Series tickets as well. We'll both take them.
Free me, I'll pay. You might remember I had a ticket in 2015 to the NLCS Game 5 against the Cubs, which was not necessary, but I would have been there. I'm glad I was.
Phantom ticket, and I would love them to clinch at home. And listen, you got the moment of being on the field for a World Series champion. I cried being there for a clincher in the NLDS. Like, it's almost laughable, but like we've had nothing really to celebrate for so long that, like Brandon Nimmo, I was there getting emotional because they finally clinched on my turf of my new stadium that I go to 50, 60 games. I'm there all the time. Like, City has now become, your Shea is now my city. Now I went to Shea, obviously growing up, but I was living in Connecticut. I probably went to 15, 20 games a year. But since Citi Field is open, I was a New York resident up until 6 weeks ago. So that was really my adult home. I got to go on the field. I've interviewed players. So it's really become like my second home. And that's why it hit home for me. But man, if they could win a pennant on Friday and win these next 3, I don't think it's going to happen. I said Mets in 7. I'm sticking with Mets in 7.
Well,
but that would be really special.
Before you leave the last clincher, let's remember the beauty of seeing the Phillies in the dugout, looking out, stunned. Now, I don't know if you noticed, and I can't remember if I mentioned to you, but game 1, after that lead-off home run by Schwarber, you saw him give a look. I can't remember if it was to Turner or to Harper, but he gave a look as the crowd was going crazy, like, oh, this is going to be fun, isn't it? Just like a really subtle, we're going to have a good time with this one. And then there they were, the clincher, just stunned, looking out at the Mets celebrating. And, hopefully we have more moments like that. And I know some people would love to see them win it, like at Yankee Stadium or in front of the Yankees. But I say leave the Yankees home. The Yankees have a drought going since 2009. I'm an Islander fan, and for many years we had the 1940 chant. I'm thinking of a 2009 chant. Think about like the melody of it. But let's see that drought continuing for a while. I don't need any Subway Series. I'd love to see the Mets play the Guardians.
It would be, I will say, it would be cool because if it's a game 6 or 7 Yankee Stadium, I'll make a call. Like I will find my way in that building, even if I gotta like get through a security officer. I can maybe throw a text to a security guard and get me in the building somehow. I got to be there. Cleveland, I don't know if I'm going to make, without a job right now, I don't know if I can make the trek to Cleveland, but I could hop on that $30 Amtrak to New York. And, I'm crashing on every couch locally in the tri-state in all New York right now. But that's got to be, just take the 86 moment, be on the field to see it. Like, I imagine that's, you have a kid, wife, like that's got to be up there in the Mount Rushmore of life moments. Like the fact that the Alonso watch party was like an upper moment and they weren't even home was so cool for me. Pete Alonso, like me going nuts. The clincher of the NLDS, the World Series being on the field has got to be in your Mount Rushmore of life moments, right?
It is. So now you're thinking of all the years you've spent at Citi Field and up and down seasons, a lot of down ones, and makes it so sweet now. So I started being a Mets fan in '69. Call me a bandwagoner, but I started being a Mets fan in '69.
I started in 2000, really, and then made the World. So we started our fandoms when they made the World Series.
That's right. But I enjoyed '73. Rusty Staub is my guy. And my son's middle name is Staub, after the great man, Rusty Staub. But after that, they had a couple of good years, 74, 75, 76. But then they dumped Seaver. And then it was suffering for years. And I was still there. I was going to like 20, 30 games a year at Shea when the Mets were finishing last every year. So when you talk about 84, they suddenly were, in the pennant race with the Cubs, 85 with the Cardinals, and then seeing the win in 86. That was a culmination of, all right, I endured all the suffering, and this is why, because, you have this payoff. But, Jake, I always tell people, I always tell you, this business about long-suffering Mets fans, it's overblown. Yeah, I mean, nobody's the Yankees. Nobody's going to win all those pennants. But the Mets magic in October, that's what you can count on. I mean, that's what this franchise is about. If you think about the amazing wins in '69, of course, '73, they came close and they vanquished the Reds. They had some amazing moments. And then obviously '86, that's what the tradition of this team is. And so the amazing things they're doing in the last 2 weeks, that's just continuing the Mets magic tradition.
And it's coincidentally the Mets Magic Podcast. What a name for the show in the year that's been magical. I mean, this is the most fun team probably of my life. 2000 was a ragtag bunch. Surprising they got there. I was too young at 9 years old to really appreciate it. 2006 was great, but the lasting memory I have is Aaron Hallman and Yadier Molina. 2015 was awesome, great team, but kind of came out of nowhere. At one point, they had John Mayberry hitting cleanup and Eric Campbell soup, and then they get UNS Cespedes. They turn it around. But the lasting memories, I have the throw home in Game 5 and Matt Harvey staying out there and they lose. So like I've had just hard final memories. And I don't want a final memory that's bad. I want a trip down the Canyon of Heroes in the year that I for now left New York, was laid off, all the down things. I want an up thing, and the up thing would be a ring on my finger, not a pennant, not a DS clincher. Beat the Dodgers and beating the Yankees. As much as we say we want to play Cleveland, it would be so bittersweet to finally shove it back in their faces after our whole lives and mine growing up as a childhood being made fun of by that. Look at all the rings. We got 27. You got 2. I've heard it in reality, online, on Twitter, and I want that to end, Uncle D. I want it to end this year with I don't have any girl in my life. There's no, that kind of ring ain't coming on my finger anytime soon. I want a World Series ring on my finger.
I think the girls, I've heard the knocking on your door, so I don't know if I can actually believe this business, but I'll be just as happy if the Yanks are sitting home and watching on TV and the people at Fox are upset. Did you notice yesterday they were already, now this is before the Mets came back,
yeah.
they're already teasing Ohtani and Judge, the matchup of the century. Like, that's not happening, but you guys. And so I'll be more than happy if we get the ring, but if the Yankees are watching on television. But if they do make the Subway Series, obviously that's going to be fun too. And we've got some business to do in the next few days.
How do you see this ending here? I still say Mets in 7. I want them to win at 5 and be there at Friday. But what do you think happens?
If I had to predict, I'd say Mets in 6.
6. All right. So we're confident. Game 1 was a fluke. Those happen. You move on. I said it's not they don't translate day to day. The next day doesn't mean what happened. Yesterday makes a difference. The pitching is there. The lineup is there. Lindor keep hitting clutch. Uncle D, you were alive for the first one. You were alive for the second one. You're still alive. So I hope that you get to see 3, and I want 1, and we can go down the Canyon of Heroes, and I can finally get a parade.
And my last prediction, we want to see some key Jeff McNeil moments between now and the ring. And obviously there's going to be more Howie moments. I mean, I wish Netflix was doing a show with Howie Rose, these last couple of weeks. He's making the plane trips. He's having these classic calls. Just think about the next blizzard. You're going to sit back with something warm to drink and just watch all these Met moments and Howie moments. It's going to be a fun winter.
I watch them every day. Like, it's a fun fall. Like, I'm gonna watch them on Thanksgiving. But yeah, no, and you kind of feel bad for Gary Cohen. Like, he's just getting robbed again. Like, they really need to let these home announcers, if they're gonna do it on ESPN, let Gary Cohen be the play-by-play guy. There's got to be a way they can do it, because it's taking away. And I get it. You're gonna say, oh well, then get the Dodgers play-by-play guy too. Well, put one on ESPN, put one on ESPN2, put it on 2 channels, one home, one away broadcast. But like, you're robbing the Mets TV play. Like, Gary is arguably the best play-by-play guy in baseball, and we're not getting any double "it's out of here's" from him. The Francisco Lindor might have been the first ever triple "it's out of here" moment, and we didn't get to get it. I know Howie's been amazing. He's been on my past show. He's retold the story of getting my mom's number in '83 at the Toyota dealership in Queens. I would have not been here today if Howie Rose called earlier. Bob Brown swooped in and took my mom away. But, either I'm Jake Rose or I'm not alive today. And so me and Howie have a connection unlike any other. So I'm glad for that. But, God, I do feel bad for Gary.
Well, if you do go back to 69, the NBC broadcast, you had Lindsey Nelson there. He had this huge headset to be doing interviews with, like, Jackie Kennedy Onassis and stuff before the game. And then he'd be there in the booth. It's too bad they don't have Gary doing moments like that for Fox. That would be a lot of fun, for sure.
Because these guys are home. These guys clearly hate the Mets. Like, you could tell on the broadcast. I mean, we talked about the commercial Judge Ohtani, but it does. Smoltz, we know. Like, Smoltz, it's very obvious he wants the Mets to get destroyed. Davis, I can't really tell, but they keep talking about them like they're Girl Scout cookies, like they're the little kid and the little engine that could. And yes, they're resilient. Yes, they shouldn't have been here. But when you look on paper right now, they're here and they're very good. They're a great team. And the little engine that could is really like a Harley Davidson. It's not this little engine anymore.
Yeah, those announcers are not getting it. And they're unlistenable to me. I've got to sync up Howie, and it's hard because I get it just right, and then one of my kids grabs a remote to change the channel. I'm like, no, do it like slow motion.
It's delayed too. I feel like the radio or TV, it'll be delayed. It's hard to sync them up perfectly. You're going to know the result on one end before the other, right?
Well, there are tricks to it. I don't know if I'm allowed to say. It could be like copyright violations or something, but there are ways to get it just right.
Yeah, I might have to start doing that, but won't have to do it the next three. I'll be in the building. Can't wait. You were there on the field for 86. I hope I can have a similar. Well, you can't get on the field anymore in these days. They got security up the wazoo, but I want to be at a parade. And Uncle David, thanks for popping on, and hopefully we move on and we'll go to a World Series game.
Thanks for having me. Keep up the great work, and let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. To be alive for 2 is already amazing. So for 1 is amazing, but to be alive for 2 is remarkable. And now the Mets go for 3, and they go for 3 wins at Citi Field. We'll see you there. Thanks to Jeff Bilski. Thanks to him for getting me in the building too this week. Can't wait. And I'll have plenty of content. TikTok at Jake Brown Radio, Twitter at Jake Brown Radio, Instagram at Jake Brown Radio, the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. Smash that thumbs up, comment, subscribe, all across the board. We will have you covered. Plenty of video content coming from the ballpark, food reviews. I'm going to try and get that OMG sandwich from Benettieri's, do a food review. Lots of good stuff coming this week, so stay tuned. See you there if you're going. Let's go, Mets. Let's finish this damn series. Let's beat the Dodgers and get to the World Series. But at the very least, take 2 in Queens. Send this back to L.A. with 2 chances to win 1 game to move on. And protect this house. Protect Citi Field. We'll see you at the ballpark. We'll be back probably after game 4 with the pod, but stay tuned. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic, and let's go Mets.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Mets Magic on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.